Hi guys, I am back again today. So I was saying in my last video I got a suggestion from someone talking about what books would I recommend for beginner witches. So I started pulling books out, looking through them again to say, is this one that I would recommend? And it's a lot harder than it sounds. So I have a ton. Hold on, here, wait, hopefully I can get this back, but look. Yep, all that. I have some in here. So I pulled out a lot, but I'm gonna break it down at the very end. I'm gonna show the 5 books that I think, if you are not interested in any other topic, there's 5 books that I would recommend to get first above all others for if you're a beginner witch. Okay, so let's break it down. First of all, I'm going to go into different categories. So the initial thing that I'm going to talk about is just in general beginner pagan beginner witch books that talk about several different topics, or that talk about a topic that specifically is something that you really would want to read about when you're first starting. Okay, so the first book is a book of pagan prayer. So when I first started, one of the things that I found that I missed about Christianity was that there weren't a lot of traditional like prayer things, and as a Christian it's easier to delve into your spirituality if you have a specific thing to say in the morning, before you eat, that kind of thing. So this book actually was a wonderful addition, just to give you some ideas of, you know, what to start out with when you're first starting. And a lot of people say that pagans don't pray, and that's not true. Anything that we do, any spell that we do, any drawing down of the moon, drawing down of the goddess, any of that stuff is a prayer to either a specific deity, god or goddess, or a specific aspect of the goddess that you're looking for. Anything can be a prayer. It's just a different way of doing a prayer. So I really liked this book when I first started out, and now I still use it sometimes to say, hey, I think for a month I'm gonna do a prayer every morning for a month, because I really want to wake up with a different kind of intention or something. So when you look at, it's very in-depth. It's this little book, but it's very in-depth. It's got 200, almost 300 pages, 286 pages. And when you look at the contents, there is a prayer for everything. It's really a good book to start out with, to give you an idea of what to say, who you're talking to. Ancient pagan prayers and offerings. Why do we pray? Why do we make offerings? The politics of giving. Do the pagan gods exist? Praying through words, praying through posture, praying through motion, praying through dance. That's one of the things I love as being a pagan, is we have lots of different ways to pray. We can do a belly dance and be praying. We can form a drum circle and be drumming for 24 hours and have it be one big long prayer. The intentions is what's important, don't forget. Identifying your gods, defining deities through their myths. So it takes, let's talk about, okay, prayers to the dawn. So this is where I started with this book, is specific times of the day, starting with prayers for that. So if we go to, where the heck was that? Prayers for times of day. Okay. Prayers for the dawn. I set my face towards the eastern horizon and wait in the dark for the coming of day. See, there he rises, the shining one rises, and I stand here praising, revering the wonder. Here's another one. The goddess of dawn sends her maidens before her as heralds to announce the coming of the light. There in the east, the light increases, and she appears on the horizon. Eos, bring the dawn. Eos, bring the light. Eos, bring the day. So again, this was just, I really enjoyed this book. It gave me some things to say when I wasn't ready to write anything of my own yet. So that was 5 minutes for one book. All right, I'm going to have to try to speed up. You know me, I'm a talker. I'll try. Here we go. The next book, and I still use this book today, is the only Wiccan spell book you'll ever need. I loved this book. There's all kinds of spell suggestions in here for all kinds of things. Spells for health, spells for good luck. It talks about casting your circle, how to cast your circle, and gives you an idea of how to do that. Taking emotional inventory, putting power days and astrology to good use. So what days of the week are better, what times of the sun and moon phases are better for different spells. A spell to booster the first chakra, second chakra. A spell to create prosperity, expand self-awareness, enhance creativity, moving into a new home. A spell to ensure a smooth move. Spells for kids. It has everything in there. And literally, I think this was one of the first books I started out with. And I know I didn't include it in my 5, but it is an awesome book to start out with. Again, when you're not ready to write your own spells, you kind of want some suggestions on how to start out. I loved this one. This is by Marian Singer and Trish McGregor. The next one is A Witch's Bible, The Complete Witch's Handbook. This is by Janet and Stuart Farrar. F-A-R-R-A-R. They are a huge, huge team, husband and wife team, that has been writing for a very, very, very long time. And I have several of their books. A Witch's Bible is a great book to start out with. It tells you a little bit about each Sabbath. It talks about different rituals for each Sabbath. It then goes into the second half is actually a different book, which is Part 2, Principles, Rituals, and Beliefs of Modern Witchcraft. So it goes into some of our history as witches. Initiations, consecrations, the Book of Shadows, the seashore ritual, reincarnation, what we believe about that, myth, ritual, and symbolism, witchcraft and sex, naked in your own right, clairvoyance and divination, astral projection, spells, tools. So it really is comprehensive, covers a little bit of everything, and they have been studying forever. So they are a really good start. When you're starting out, that's a good person. It's still on. I can't believe it. That was great. Okay. So they are a great resource to start out with. Very good. Everyday Magic. This is by Dorothy Morrison. This is just how to incorporate magic into your everyday life, which to me was great to look at. It has spells, it has rituals, just everyday stuff. Successful hunting chant. A wildflower seed spell. To receive a marriage proposal. To rid yourself of energy vampires. Vervain wish bath. The magical uses of stones. So again, a little bit of everything. Really good book to start out with. Okay, so I have to say, of course, I am biased because I met Margo Adler. But this book, Drawing Down the Moon, is one of the best books ever. I can't believe I didn't include her. That's really sad. I might include her instead of one of the other ones. Just because Margo Adler is, is still a huge, huge force in the world of witchcraft. She was an incredible woman. She was a person that stood with one foot in witchcraft society and one foot in regular society. She worked for NPR for years. And this book just really explains the history of witchcraft, goes through rituals, talks about women and feminism, where we came up with our religion. It's really a huge comprehensive study of witchcraft in general and paganism in general. So I highly recommend, if you are a person that wants to have important people that have really shaped the way paganism is made, that's definitely one, is Margo Adler. Drawing Down the Moon. Great book. Okay, Starhawk. The Spiral Dance is how I got through probably the first year of my witchcraft journey. Almost every single ritual she has in here. She has every Wheel of the Year Sabbath ritual in here, and you can kind of tweak it to your own comfortability. She has how to set up your altar, creating your sacred space. She has very specific things like when you are tracing out a pentacle, if you trace it out in this way, what does that mean? If you trace it out in the other way, what does that mean? How to direct energy. Really, like I said, probably the first year or two of my pagan journey, this was the first book that I went to for ritual. Time and time again. I still go to this book for ritual to get ideas for ritual to incorporate into whatever I'm doing, because she's just great. Wicca for Life. This is a great, Raymond Buckland, he was, again, a person who shaped how we feel about paganism today. And again, this book starts out with the very basic stuff. If you're in a coven, how do you consecrate the coven? How do you initiate someone new into your coven? Your Book of Shadows, Witchcraft in the Family, peace signs and talking sticks, cord magic, in or out of the closet, handling verbal attacks, pendulum power. And then again goes through witchcraft in the bedroom, bell and blade, burials and consecrations, and then goes into the Sabbats. Different. Now, I don't use the Sabbats that are in here, the rituals that are in here, very often, because it is more geared towards coven work. But all of the beginning kind of stuff that you're wondering about is in here. What anathema is, why you should have one. This is another book like this, and a lot of these beginner books are the same kind of thing. You have to think about it, incorporates everything. This one is The Craft by Dorothea Morrison. Again, she is another person who really is shaping the way we look at witchcraft today. She gives you lots of ideas on how to form a circle, how to create your altar, your wand, what to make your wand out of, correspondences for colors, for flowers, for herbs, the charge of the goddess, the charge of the god. She also goes into the read of Wicca, which if you're Wiccan specifically, that's great. Most of the read I still believe in today. There's some pieces of it that I believe in a little less, but that doesn't mean it's not good to learn from, especially when you're a beginner. It's great to have some of those beginning kind of things to look at. Now, don't kill me, guys. I had to include a silver raven wolf. Once you are, I don't know, more farther along in your path, you will find silver raven wolf to be a little simplistic, maybe. People find her a little light, a little woo-woo, and that's okay, but you cannot take away the fact that she has so much information in her books. When you are a beginner, especially, she has lots and lots of information to start you out. What things mean when you hear pagans talking. What does Skyfather mean? What does Skyclad mean? I had never heard of Skyclad before I became a pagan. I didn't know what the heck it meant. Widdershins. Go ahead, try and define that before you become a pagan. So, I suppose I should tell you what it means. It's counterclockwise. So everything is done in the cycle of the year. So if you're going counter to the clock, counterclockwise, it's called Widdershins. So, and there's ways of doing that for different spells. But there's just an immense amount of information. And this book, out of all her books, I think To Ride a Silver Broomstick is probably, if you got that one, you would get all of what you need for silver. It talks about the tarot. It talks about scrying. I believe it talks, telepathy, psychometry, mind power, gems, urban healing. Again, it's spell casting. It does go through a lot of stuff. She might be a little witch light, but especially when you're starting out, sometimes you want a little witch light to learn. Again, Buckland. I can't get away from Buckland. I have as many Buckland books as I can get my hands on. He is just a great beginner person. Not just for beginners, though. This book, especially the Complete Book of Witchcraft, I go back to this book a lot for different things. Witches' alphabets, the runes. He just does it all. And this book is a great book to start you off. Again, talks about the Sabbats, full moon rites, the Esbat, and the Sabbat. And it goes through as lessons. That's why this book is good for beginners. It starts as lessons. At the end of every chapter, it has questions. So, it's like a workbook from school. Did you get everything that I tried to give you in that? Yes, no. So that's really good. I don't want to spill all these books all over. Okay, so those are the beginning books that are comprehensive books that kind of cover everything. I want to go through specific topics quickly. So we're already 20 minutes in. When you want to, if you're starting out and you want to study feminism and the goddess, and looking at the feminine role of deity, there's 3 books that I recommend right off the bat. The first one is When God Was a Woman. That is by Merlin Stone. She's an incredible writer, and When God Was a Woman really starts off your journey to why we believe in the goddess and why we're not just looking at male deities. The other one is Women Who Run with the Wolves. This book is an incredible book. Myths and stories of the wild woman archetype. Just, even if you're not a pagan, this is a book I would highly recommend to start just kind of standing in your own power and truth as a goddess. That's a great book. And lastly, but not least, Shalaja Banam wrote a book called Aphrodite's Daughter, and it's really about her own sexual awakening. It is about sacred feminine work sexually, and the feminine body and mystique, and it's really an incredible book to go to. Good. If your path, well, let me start with the history. There's a couple history books that if you are a person that likes to know the history of what you're learning about, the history of paganism, that kind of thing, there's 2 books that I highly recommend. The first one is The Chalice and the Blade, Rian Eisler. This is, a lot of these books are older kind of books, but this book really goes into how modern paganism started, where we got our ideas from, and why we believe what we believe. So that's a great one. The other one is The Triumph of the Moon, and this book is an incredible. This guy Ronald Hutton, you can find a lot of his stuff like on YouTube if you look him up. He really took a long time to study where paganism came from. He looked into Gerald Gardner, who started Gardnerianism. This book is really a huge step in our history to know where we came from and why and what started out our path on paganism. So that's a great history book. Northern tradition. If you're looking for Norse mythology and Norse, what we believe, if you're going to try to follow a more Norse path, the Vikings, Northern magic, rune mysteries, and shamanism. This is a great book to get you interested in all of the Norse. It talks about runes, symbols, and symbology. It's a really good book to get you started on that path. So that's a good one. Shamanism. If you're going to go with shamanism, if shamanism is something that you're interested in, I recommend The Way of the Shaman, first and foremost. This is by Michael Harner. This is, again, an older book, but it really starts off with, this is why shamans believe what they believe, and this is how they start out their training. It's a great book. The other one is by Oaken, Ash, and Thorn, Modern Celtic Shamanism, and that is by DJ Conway, who I love her. She's just great. And again, this is kind of modern shamanism and the Celtic side of that, where they got, all the stuff they're looking at. And of course, probably the first book that really got me interested before I even really went down that path is The Mists of Avalon. I have talked about that before, and study that has a lot to do with Celtic mythology and Arthur and all that kind of stuff. When you first start out, you don't know how you are going to meet your god and goddesses, your patron gods and goddesses. I recommend there's 3 books to help you look into what goddess or god may be calling you. Goddess-wise, The Goddess Guide. This is by Priestess Brandy Ossett, and talks about a ton of different goddesses, where they came from, what they believe. If they are calling on you, this is what you can expect. The other goddess book, again, Janet and Stuart Farrar, is The Witch's Goddesses and The Witch's God. And again, both of these go into detail about each goddess and what they believe. So when you start feeling the pull of a goddess or a specific god, you will know why. Loki, Eros, Ra. It comes from all different pantheons, so that they do not stop at Celtic or Egyptian, or they go through all different kinds of pantheons. And when you're first starting out and you're like, okay, I kind of feel this pull towards this thing, but I don't know what goddess that would be or what god that would be, these are invaluable books to have. So you can kind of look it up and say, oh, maybe this is the god that's calling me. All right. Really quickly, because we're running out of time here. Okay, crystals. If crystals are your thing and you're very interested in crystals, I'm going to recommend 3 books. These 2 are together. If you've ever heard of Melody, she wrote several books about crystals. These 2 books work together. One is, they're called Love is in the Earth, and I believe you can get them together, but good luck, because it's like $100 and something if you find them together. So I found them apart. Love is in the Earth, a kaleidoscope of crystals, and Love is in the Earth, mineralogical pictorial. So this one is a picture. It shows a picture of a million different kinds of minerals and crystals. So when you find a crystal or something, you can kind of look in there and say, is that it? And this one, the kaleidoscope of crystals, has no pictures, but has all the metaphysical properties of the stones. So let's say you are looking at, oh, that's a good one. Of course, I lost it. Okay, hematite. Let's say you're looking at hematite. It tells you how it grows. It tells you hematite can be a stone for the mind, helps to sort out things. But there are a page and a half of stuff about hematite, what it does metaphysically. Incredible books. The other one is anything by Judy Hall. Comprehensively, though, the Encyclopedia of Crystals. Again, a great book as far as it shows you a picture by color. This one goes by color, so you can go, oh, I have a pink crystal, let's turn to the pink section and kind of try to find it. It talks about metaphysical qualities. It talks about how it grows as far as into hexagonal crystals, or it grows into circular tubules, or whatever. And it gives you like the mole's hardness scale and all that stuff. Okay, top 5 books, quickly. Celebrate the Earth. This one's by Laurie Cabot. She has several books that are wonderful. Go ahead and look at her. Celebrate the Earth, though, is a great book because it breaks down all the year of the year. Did I really say that? Wheel of the year. All of the Sabbats throughout the whole year, and gives you ideas on how and why we celebrate them, and gives you a couple ideas of how to do a ritual. One of the very first books I got, there was 2, but I'll tell you the other one, is called Witchcrafting, A Spiritual Guide to Making Magic. This one's by Phyllis Curott. This book is awesome. And it could be just because this was one of the first books I got. I might be biased, that's true. But is comprehensive for everything. Really talks about how to use this book, Sabbats, groups and covers, solitary practice, energy, potions, notions and tools, secrets of spellcasting, witchcraft without rules, the god, the goddess, sacred space, nature, divination, real magic, quote unquote, real magic. Incredible book. This one is on my shelf close at hand all the time. Wicca, a guide for the solitary practitioner. If you're starting out, most likely you're starting out as a solitary practitioner. This is Scott Cunningham. This is the best book he ever came out. Again, very comprehensive. Will give you pictures of altars and how to set up your altar. Pictures of athames, why there's different ones. Your tools, your sacred tools, the deities. I was trying to find, there's great pictures of the altar. Suggested altar layout. So when you're first starting out, you're like, I don't know which side, corresponds to which. And again, keep in mind, whatever you feel, that's what it is. Dedicant. This book is by Thuri, Calafia. This was the other book. I said there was 2. One was Phyllis Curott. This is the other. Dedicant is the beginning witchcraft book. And it goes through a year. Each month is a different lesson. Tells you about the Sabbat of that time. The Inner Temple of Witchcraft. This one's by Christopher Penczak. He's a great author. He has a series of 7 books. This is the first one. So if you're starting out witchcraft, you want to start with this one. And then when you're a little bit further along, The Initiate is the second book from Thuri. And that does different lessons again, but goes a little bit more in depth. So yay! beginner books. Blessed be.